WPG Talk Radio 1450 presents Ask the Congressman, brought to you by Curexa, formerly Jersey Shore Compounding Pharmacy, compounding medication solutions from juniors to seniors to pets. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Good evening. Great to be with you. And please check out WPG1450.com and you will see the very latest, because the area, the New Jersey metro market area, except for maybe the most southern Jersey Shore, and even you are going to get quite a bit. You will get quite a bit as well. But from the mainland on, it is much different than when I left you this morning at 10:06 a.m. We're looking at 8 to 12 inches of snow tonight, an additional multiple inches that will happen tomorrow, probably about half that much on the Down Beach area, but a significant winter storm event is supposed to get underway literally this hour, and I want to thank the Congressman for coming out on a night like this, and also considering the fact that he was on a grueling, he won't call it that, but I know it was that, 7-day classified intelligence committee trip with CIA and intelligence officials in Africa. And we're going to open with that because it is breaking news. I don't even know how much of it the Congressman will be able to talk about. But, Congressman, welcome to your program. Good to see you, sir.
Well, thanks, Harry. It's great to be back with you once again.
Pleasure to have you here. And literally, you just returned yesterday.
Last night. Just last night. So let me try to frame this a little bit, because some folks may wonder, what it's all about, why these trips, what is it all about? And the House Intelligence Committee is responsible for the authorization and the oversight of the 17 intelligence agencies that are responsible for protecting the country. The one agency in particular that I have been asked to chair is the CIA. And we have these briefings in Washington, and I know everyone will be shocked to hear that many of the officials that come before us, the deputy directors and directors, are very politically correct. And that doesn't wash, not with what we're facing and the challenges and the miscues with the administration on not just wrong policy, but even lack of policy and lack of strategy. So that's when I am asked to try to get on the ground. And as lacking as the briefings are in Washington, that's as direct, informative, and just off the chart they are on the ground in these countries like Africa, with the people that we have that are just over the top in telling directly what it is, what's working, what's not working, what we should be doing, and to have the right strategy, to be able to understand what we're doing, and to be able to match it against the misinformation that we're getting out of Washington. There's just no other way to do it. So this is, I'm not even sure, it's a double digit for me into Africa. That's where I was asked to try to focus. These are some places that we have people in our agencies, unlike the military where they're told where they're going to serve. Our folks from the State Department and from our intelligence agency, CIA, they're volunteering to go there. I've been to, I was the first member of Congress to be in Somalia and Mogadishu in 20-some years. While we were, heading over, there was a report of terrorist activity in Burkina Faso, and where that happened is where 2 trips back where actually I was gathering some information. This particular trip was into 4 countries. It was the Central African Republic, it was Nigeria, and there are 2 Congos, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of the Congo. We have a lot of activity that we're trying to understand what's going on. These governments are trying to get a handle on how the terrorists are connecting themselves. And because of our allowing ISIS to gain the strength that they have connected with a number of these African groups. Boko Haram has pledged their allegiance to ISIS. ISIS is funneling money to them. A lot of these places, Central African Republic is a country that is only about 4 or 5 million people. It is larger than Texas. There's really no functioning government there. What
is the threat that is coming from the terrorist groups operating there?
Well, the threat is that they can do whatever they want. They can train, they can recruit, they can operate without anyone interfering. And to complicate things, they're coming off a brutal civil war with armed factions within the government that actually have nothing to do with the terrorist movement. They've had elections, and they're into a runoff now, a very tenuous situation. There is the largest UN peacekeeping force in Africa that is in the Central African Republic. The capital of the country, Bangui, is where the peacekeeping force is. But once you get out of that area, there's nothing.
I was thinking about this. You might expect, because of the president's background with his father and places that he has lived and all of that, that this president would be uniquely friendly and doing a whole lot. But I remember Africa loved President Bush. President Bush did a lot in Africa, and I remember he got a lot of praise for that. What are our U.S. allies saying about the United States assistance, our effort in the region that you just left?
Well, overall, I think I can sum up that our allies don't trust us and our enemies don't fear us.
It's terrible.
And
that's a terrible caustic combination.
It is a horrible, horrible, horrible situation. The State Department is making policy decisions based on bureaucrats in Washington who don't understand the threat to our country, who don't understand the situation on the ground in these different countries, and we're fighting. And this is a bipartisan effort on behalf of the Foreign Affairs Committee and on behalf of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. You've got repeatedly Senator Dianne Feinstein, who's been criticizing the president. And on the House side, we have Republicans and Democrats who are trying to get them to understand that this policy is seriously flawed. So I come back with this trip with a wealth of information. Once again, we will try to get the president, the National Security Council, the folks who are involved in this at the highest levels to understand that they need to direct some of their policies. We're losing ground at a rapid rate of speed.
You are listening to United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo. We'll be here until 5 minutes past the hour. Phone lines are already lit, have been lit since the beginning of the program. We'll get to your calls in just a moment. 609-407-1450 phone lines are open. Quick programming note. Chris Coleman and I will sign on tomorrow morning live at 9 a.m. Yes, we will dig out. We will get in because we're very, very concerned about the potential for many to be without power. And listen, Atlantic City Electric, I was on the phone with Ken Mosca, the public affairs manager, about 30 minutes before airtime. They're all over this thing. But the weight of the winter event, it's not just light snow, it's wet snow, it's ice, it's sleet, it's a mixture of all. It's very, very heavy precipitation, coupled with very significant sustained northeast winds that will often be above 50 miles an hour. Tomorrow and tomorrow night, over 60 miles an hour. So wind, heavy precipitation, bringing limbs down, just the heaviness of that type of precipitation takes lines down. So we're going to be here at 9 o'clock. We'll be taking your phone calls. We'll be presenting relevant players. Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno will join us at 9:15 tomorrow. We're going to open with Atlantic City Electric at 9 with Ken Mosca. The Atlantic County Executive will join us. Mayors will join us. Emergency management people, possibly the governor himself, who has returned to the state. And so we will be all over this and taking your phone calls if you're in need of assistance or if you want to report observations of what you're seeing. So that coverage starts live tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Chris Coleman and yours truly, right here on WPG. Joe, you're on the air with Congressman LoBiondo. Go right ahead. Time is yours.
Thank you, Harry. Welcome back home, Congressman.
Thank you.
Thank you for your tireless work representing the 2nd District and especially veterans. And my question is, former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates says, I think the odds are pretty high that countries like Iran, China, and Russia has hacked Hillary Clinton's email server, especially SAP, which is top secret. It has all the...
And Joe, time out 1 second. I want to add something. We knew about the special assistance yesterday, the SAP. Now Catherine Herridge at Fox has confirmed from 2 unnamed sources, but well-placed, that just are not permitted to go on the record. So their identities are known. They're just not made public. Totally credible. Hillary Clinton handled Congressman. This is going on while you were gone. And keep in mind, Joe G., the Congressman has been back for only a couple of hours almost, and he still got here in time to do his show. It was the only day this month we would be able to do it. And Congressman, it is now proven that she had a highest – I never even knew about this level of – why would we know? We shouldn't know. She's made it possible that we know, and it has information about an actual asset by name. So now we are talking about human lives at risk. And what Joe was just saying to you, Congressman, is absolutely true. All of those credible people, former CIA directors, the whole bunch, they've concluded that multiple countries also have all those communications. This is serious.
Yeah, this is very serious. Joe, did you have more you wanted to add on to what Gates said?
Congressman, Judge Napolitano says it's hard to believe that the FBI will not recommend indictment for Hillary Clinton over these email leaks, especially SAP. And the table is yours, Congressman.
Couple of comments. Just so our listeners understand, there are different categories of classified. There's secret, there is top secret, and then there is another category of top secret compartmentalized. And top secret compartmentalized, very, very, very few people have access to. By Mrs. Clinton having a server that was not encrypted and having all the safeguards that it should have been, it is almost guaranteed that it was hacked into. And I don't know how the FBI cannot come to the same conclusion. Now, here's what I don't know that I'm trying to get the answer to. If the FBI comes to the conclusion that they make a recommendation that she violated the law, they make that recommendation to the Attorney General. They can't act on that recommendation. It goes to the Attorney General. I don't know whether that recommendation is made public. I don't know whether the Attorney General sits on it or the Attorney General. In other words, do we all know about what that recommendation is? Does the country know that the FBI finds that Mrs. Clinton was seriously at fault and actually there should be additional judicial action taken? Or is all this kept quiet till December of this year?
Well, how about this? Just as a local member of the media, but somebody that's fairly media savvy, how about I tell you this? Of course this is going to come out because just like these people have leaked this SAP that actually confirms that the human element of spying and a person by name has now been compromised. And as Joe G. said, Robert Gates has confirmed that Russia, China, and Iran accessed Hillary's server as well. We know Director Comey is straight paper. We know he recommended General Petraeus, and General Petraeus didn't do 1/1 of what Hillary has done, and he recommended him to be prosecuted at the felony level. It was downgraded to misdemeanor. So we're going to find out, just like we found out about all this. And if the Attorney General, I had a conversation with a national guest the day before yesterday, Congressman, and we talked about how similar this is to when Mitchell was the Attorney General. If they're literally not going to bring the charges, I think too much pressure is going to be brought to bear.
Well, here's the other thing that I think. This is not just one FBI specialist that is reviewing this.
Yeah, they have 150.
Comey told us this is the best of the best that the FBI has of career FBI specialists that are doing this. I can't believe that there isn't some of them who are going to be bound by duty to make sure that America knows what the findings are.
That's what I think. Exactly right.
Now, the question then again is the timing, because what did the State Department do? Petition today for an extension?
Yes, exactly. They want more time. They're trying to slow walk it now. Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, it's still January. When do we find all this out? I mean, this is it's very serious business. This is not a wheat sale to Bulgaria. This is some of our very critical information that's been compromised.
And it also looks like this is going to go into the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Charity, that this was all incestuously linked the way that they did all this. They went homebrew so they could commingle Clinton Inc.
Well, there's a lot more to be learned about all this.
Joe G., you good?
I'm good. Thank you, Congressman, and welcome back home again.
Thank you.
Good to take your call. 609-407-1450, an open phone line. I come to the conclusion early on that they were going to try to find a way to not allow Hillary to be charged. But just with what we know, I don't think this can go that way now. How could they do that? How could they ever charge anybody again?
Well, I agree. And Biden did an interview 2 weeks ago where he said he regrets every day that he didn't run. I think that Biden may know something, and I believe that Biden will be the nominee.
So do I.
And that when this all comes out on Hillary, that Biden will be prepared, ready, and step forward and say, okay, I'm ready to do this.
I know you don't really get into this politics, especially on the other side too often, and we have a lot of stuff we want to talk to you about. But since we're kind of on this, what do you make of the fact that Bernie Sanders is leading Hillary Clinton by 8 points in Iowa and by over 30 points in New Hampshire? An unapologetic socialist. You know, the media sets Hillary up that she's so inevitable, so unbeatable, but yet I think the thought of Hillary is very different than the reality of Hillary.
My buddies who are Democrats don't have any problem saying that she is not a likable person. She is not Bill Clinton that everybody loves no matter what he says and he's all Teflon. She's a very hard person, and she's a very hard person to like. And the more people get to see her and know her, the more they don't like her, the more they don't trust her. And I think that, Sanders is appealing to the base of the Democratic Party. And let's face it, they're pretty left-wing.
I mean, he's drawing 30,000, 20,000, 10, 15,000. She's drawing 150, 200 people.
And he's not – okay, New Hampshire, that's his hometown. You expect that. But what's his lead in Iowa now?
8.
I mean, he wasn't even supposed to be in the same room with her in Iowa.
No, he was trailing and he was going to lose until we get close. And it's very similar to what I think, Obama gets a lot of credit for a great victory. I think it was the anybody but Clinton thing. It was ABC.
Yeah.
And so he got it just like – now, I believe this, and I've written about it, and I'm writing about it for next week, the fact – what you said, because I've been saying the same thing, that I think Biden will be the nominee. I cannot see Hillary getting through this. It's just there's too much criminality that's been publicly made, known to the American people. And who doesn't really think that a lot of this stuff is getting leaked because it's exactly what Obama wants?
Yeah.
This is very Machiavellian.
That's true.
What's going on. When we come back after a brief timeout, Congressman LoBiondo is going to address, speaking of terrorism, his latest assessment of our fight against ISIS. Are we really, am I making up words, are we really in a fight with ISIS with this administration? That and more, and your phone calls at 609-407-1450 as usual. Ask the Congressman with Congressman Frank LoBiondo flying by. We're at 25 minutes past the hour.
WPG Talk Radio 1450 presents Ask the Congressman. Brought to you by Curexa, formerly Jersey Shore Compounding Pharmacy. Compounding medication solutions from juniors to seniors to pets. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Hey, thanks very much. Welcome back. 27, approaching 28 minutes past the hour. We'll hold the topic about our effort fighting ISIS for in between your phone calls. We're going to go back to your calls at 609-407-1450. Ed is in Egg Harbor for the Congressman. Ed, welcome to the program. The Congressman is yours. He's listening.
Good afternoon, Congressman. Thanks for taking my call, and thanks for your service, your public service. To bring the question a little bit locally, I was wondering if you could update us on the status of the FAA reauthorization and what that might mean for next-gen development, specifically here at the FAA Tech Center. And the second part to my question is I was wondering if you would care to comment locally what's happening with the potential state takeover of Atlantic City. Thank you, and I will hang up and listen to your answer.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for checking in.
So the second part first, having just gotten off a plane from overseas a couple of hours ago, I don't know what the latest is on the state takeover effort, but I think it's horrible. I don't agree with it at all. I don't know what details I'm missing, but I hope that does not take place. On the FAA reauthorization, the extension expires in March. We've been working on the base bill. The final touches have not been put together. We've held, I don't know how many hearings, listening sessions, and roundtables with all of the stakeholders in trying to bring together what we think would be an effort to move things forward. And my focus has been to make sure that the Tech Center is held in the regard that it should be held as far as being the premier center in the nation for safety, security, research, and development. And the thousands of people that we have there are kept in focus. We don't have all the details of it yet, and I'm a little bit hesitant to get into what may be changing, but we're working on it. We're working on it very hard. We should have some public information within a couple of weeks. I think we do get some dry ink, as I will call it, some stuff that we can roll out. I'll be looking for a comment from the Tech Center. As your question is, as it relates to next gen, we've been trying to make sure that the role that the Tech Center plays with the next generation of air traffic control continues to remain as strong as it has been. There isn't anybody that's going to take that over that I can see. I don't think there is anybody who is technically capable of taking that over. What we're trying to make sure is that now that Stockton has holding the lease for the research park, that we can put the final pieces of the puzzle together with that. I think it sounds like you probably know a little bit about this subject, and you know the legal challenges that we had with the South Jersey Economic Development District and how Atlantic County had to step in, and we finally got that untangled, and then we had the Herman Sotkamp situation. Harvey Kesselman stepped forward. I think we're in a decent position with the research park, and now with New Jersey being one of the 6 test sites for the integration of drones into the national airspace, there should be a pretty positive opportunity for the research park, and that means the Tech Center, because the Tech Center is going to validate the information that's going to come from the 6 national test sites that have to do with integration of drones into the national airspace. So there's a lot that's happening. I think in the next couple of months, we're going to have a lot more information. I don't know if we're going to be able to make the March deadline. I don't think there's any chance of any kind of a shutdown. Whether we can make it without another extension remains to be seen. So we'll keep a close watch on it.
Ed, I want to thank you for your call. Thanks for calling Ask the Congressman. Lance is going to be next. Let me just make a quick comment if you're just joining the program, because part of the question was, hey, Congressman, what do you think about what's happening in Atlantic City? And if the Congressman said, hey, I just got off a plane, I don't know. I just want to make it clear, not that, that the Congressman needs me to have his back, but I always do. He didn't fly 852 miles to Orlando, Florida, and it was gone for 4 hours round trip. He's been gone for the past week, and we're talking about an incredible classified intelligence committee trip with the CIA in 4 different nations in Africa. So this all popped while he was literally thousands of miles away. That's the reality of that question, Ed. 609-407-1450, an open phone line. You are on the air, Lance. The Congressman is here.
Yes. Good evening, Congressman, and Harry. Again, a great show.
Thank you.
Congressman, on behalf of my wife and I want to thank you and your staff, especially Jonathan, I believe, that responded so quickly and with clarity and cohesiveness to a question we sent you via email in regards to getting papers for my mother-in-law, who's 93. So I just wanted to thank you for that. That was very, very good. And also I wanted to thank you again, for your unwavering commitment and, I guess, standing shoulder to shoulder with all the veterans, with not only in South Jersey, but throughout the United States. And it's a pleasure to have known you for the last couple of decades, and I just think you're a true citizen, and you really give a damn. And I just wish there were more people that we could clone you and have you sort of like take the lead, because you definitely don't take any fecal matter when it comes coming across your desk. Thank you very much.
Well, you made my day, my week, my month. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. We'll always try to do my very best and put people first, and I appreciate it very much.
Let me ask you about that, because you don't go fishing for anything like that. You do work really hard, and you don't go running around saying, hey, you wouldn't believe how hard I work, but you really do. I mean, just this trip alone is exhausting. Isn't that nice when you hear something like that?
Well, it really is. And constituent service is something that is always at the top of the list, but we can't talk about it. I mean, the privacy rules are the privacy rules, but there isn't anything that is any more rewarding than when someone calls up with a problem, and especially when it is a veteran that has gotten a runaround from the VA for one reason or another, and we can help solve that problem or connect the dots and make something better. That is really what it's all about. And, I've got I'm incredibly blessed with a team of people, both here and in Washington, who understand who they work for, and it's the people of the 2nd District. And it's, again, these are the things that you don't have a press release on, and these are the things that we never talk about. But the satisfaction comes from a phone call like this, which is outstanding, comes over a radio program. But most of all, when we know we can solve a problem for someone who really had an issue with the federal government.
We are visiting for the next 30 minutes. It's 35 minutes past the hour with your United States Congressman, Frank LoBiondo. This is his monthly program, and we're very proud of this program. It's very relevant. It's important in terms of the significant information that the Congressman has the opportunity to share. And I know he agrees with this because we've talked about it on and off air. He enjoys getting your phone calls and hearing the feedback from you in the district because he is that grounded and it's that important. The whole role of Congressman, I know you know this because I think you've been the best we've ever had, and we've had some good ones. You know that the whole way that the People's House was set up was to stay close to the people, and you've done that.
And I think it's up to each of us, all 435 of us, to figure out and to constantly get better at doing that. So there are a variety of ways to do it. We're in Washington a lot. I think our listeners should know that now for the last 7 days I wasn't able to do it, but when I'm not on the trips overseas, I get a printout every day of every call that comes into the office. Those who ask for me to call them back, I do my best to call them back, but I get a chance to look at every call that comes in. I tried to go to as many church barbecues and fire company breakfasts as I can, being available, being accessible, trying to, listen, people are frustrated, people are worried, people are angry. There's a world of hurt going on across the country, and especially here in this district. And being in and around people to be able to understand, answer their questions, this is all a part of it. And if you don't want this part of it, you shouldn't be trying to do the job.
You see, in my estimation, and this is actually as objective as I can be, it's going to come off kind, but if it wasn't true, I couldn't say it. You've stayed closely connected and grounded to the people. I've mentioned this on my show many times. I watched you drive from our nation's capital several and a half hours to go to a viewing because it was somebody from your district, and the fact that you would be there, how much that would mean, only to pay your respects and turn right back, 5-hour drive to go back and vote. And that's the kind of service that you do, and that's the reason why in this era, I think you're going to agree with this, Congressman. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. The American people are so anti-establishment right now. I don't think we've lived through a period this anti-establishment, maybe the 1960s, but this is different than that. And because of communication and technology and social media, people can get so much more involved than they ever could before. You might be able to go to an event and hold up a sign, but if the media didn't take your picture, nobody ever saw it. Now you can blog, you can tweet, you can Facebook. So the accountability factor is just incredibly, at a hyper-warp speed. The reason there's not anti-establishment against you is for the reasons I said, but I think you will agree there is a real anti-establishment mood in this country, which I will serve up in the form of Donald Trump and how he is doing.
Well, there is, and in many respects with good reason. There are people who forget who they work for in Washington, and there are people who are putting party and politics before the people that they represent. I've been pretty blessed to come in contact with an awful lot of folks who are not just constituents but are very good friends, and I've gotten to know some of them pretty well, and we've lost some of them, and there's one particular individual that I got a chance to communicate with an awful lot, and in a little less than 2 months, 7 years ago, we lost him. And you know who I'm talking about. And I just remember that this particular individual, Rich, this guy's attitude, I thought I was having a bad day sometimes, and he would call me, and it was just, I haven't talked to you in a while, and just want to talk to you, and everything was always good. Everything was always good, and
he might have just had dialysis.
Yeah, and this guy, let's face it, he was dying. I mean, and it put a perspective on things. And it was guys like him, and there are still people like him that motivate me and make me understand what life is about, what the world is about, and what my job is about.
And you drove 5 hours plus on a voting session day to be at his viewing, and I saw you there.
Well, this is, it's people like that why we have to remember we're on this earth.
And then you have examples, and I'm not just taking a gratuitous bad shot at Eric Cantor. Eric Cantor was in another state, yucking it up, yakking it up, laughing. The election was over, and then lo and behold, they threw his rear end right out.
Well,
because he forgot who he worked for.
Things have a way of catching up to you if you lose sight of where your roots are. You can never forget who your friends are or where your roots are.
609-407-1450 phone lines are open, and in fact, the first time tonight that the phone lines have been clear. You can change that. We'll step aside for just 2 minutes. We'll be right back. You are listening to your United States Congressman, Frank LoBiondo. In case you can't tell, he's even playing injured tonight, under the weather and off of a grueling African four-nation Intelligence Committee trip with the CIA and other intelligence officials. And if you missed the early part of the program, catch our YouTube channel, and this will be on demand give us a little bit of time, because Chris and I are basically just going to sleep tonight and come right back, and we're doing storm coverage beginning at 9 o'clock. But in the reasonable near future, Congressman LoBiondo's complete program will be up at our WPG1450.com YouTube channel, and it will play in a future Saturday in the 7 o'clock hour during the as a part of the Town Square Saturday morning program that Chris started about a week or two ago. If you want to jump in, now's a good time, 609-407-1450. I'm going to hold the calls for one round of questions because I want to give the congressman an opportunity with respect to terrorism to give us, as our congressman, his latest assessment on our fight against ISIS, feathering into the role that Iran and Russia are playing. Is it? I think it is. Does the congressman believe it? That it is a proxy war, that there is a whole lot happening right now in the Middle East and elsewhere, a whole lot more, with Congressman LoBiondo coming up in less than 2 minutes.
WPG Talk Radio 1450 presents Ask the Congressman. Brought to you by Curexa, formerly Jersey Shore Compounding Pharmacy. Compounding medication solutions from juniors to seniors to pets. It's your opportunity to talk directly to Congressman Frank LoBiondo. Call 407-1450. Now, with Congressman Frank LoBiondo, here's Harry Hurley.
Hey, thanks. Welcome back. As I promised, it is absolutely flying by. Before we get to the next round of questions, I even thought of something that I have to ask the congressman because it is a first, and we'll get to that. But I want to send a shout-out to a great public servant. He's been a terrific chief of police, and that is Pleasantville City Police Chief Sean Riggin, who I know is listening to the program. He sends his best regards, Congressman, to you, sir. And I know Christmas is, he didn't write this, but I'm saying it, that Christmas is about 320 days away. He is unabashedly begging for spot shotter. Anything you can do, Congressman. I just thought I'd put the order in for the chief.
Okay.
So noted?
Noted, and
okay.
We'll talk to Santa.
All right. Now, I should have thought of this when we talked about your CIA intel trip. You actually, and you never know, I guess, what can come up. You're in another foreign land, and you're at a place where really not a lot of people at your high level really ever, they don't get to see people like you very, very often. So you found yourself, I understand, if I'm accurate here, you tell the story, in a press conference with the president of a foreign nation.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was I am very happy on these trips to be way below the radar screen. But inevitably, the leaders of these governments know when someone at my level is transiting through their country. And our ambassador to the Central African Republic, Ambassador Hawkins, was contacted by the government and by the president. President of that country was Samba Penza, actually a woman. And it was not on schedule originally, but she made a request to meet with me because they just had not had an elected representative of the U.S. government that had been in that country. The ambassador said, would you make time for this? And I said, absolutely, if it's something you think would be helpful. So we scheduled the meeting. I went over to her residence. It was kind of a first for me in that respect. I had a little bit of a briefing from the ambassador of what we were going to be talking about and had some, little tutorial, so to speak. And then a little bit of a surprise. The president asked the ambassador if it would be okay because there was a lot of interest, and the media found out about this, if I would do an impromptu press conference with her talking about the upcoming election and the prospects for the Central African Republic from my perspective as a visiting member of Congress. So I actually did a press conference with the president of the Central African Republic, and we were able to get a short clip of it, which is what I sent to you.
Pretty cool, huh?
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Now, let me ask you, I was just thinking about this. What was the temperature like? What was the weather like while you were there?
Oh.
Unbearable, right?
Hot. It was very hot, and it was quite a shock getting back here.
Speaking of terrorism, which we were earlier in your program, Congressman LoBiondo. And to listeners, you can jump in, and we go right to you. As you can tell, all hour long we've been taking your calls. 609-407-1450 for Congressman LoBiondo. It's Ask the Congressman. We're at 49 minutes past the hour, so we've got about another 15 minutes left. Reminder, tomorrow morning at 9 when you wake up, and please charge all your laptops and devices and anything that you can possibly store electricity, because you can plug into your laptop and charge your cell phone. Check if your landlines are working, if you have Wi-Fi, if you have maybe a cell phone connection but not a landline connection, but have everything charged so that if you lose the power, that you'll still be able to to stay in communication. Battery radio would be very, very smart, because we're going to come on at 9 o'clock. We're going to have Atlantic City Electric. We're going to be talking about ETRs, that's estimated time of restoration, with Ken Mosca. We'll know by then how many people are without power. We'll have all kinds of updates. Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, who will be Lieutenant Governor tomorrow and not acting governor, because Governor Christie, I believe, wheels are on the ground right now. He is back. We may hear from Governor Christie tomorrow morning as well during our live coverage, but we have the Lieutenant Governor checking in for sure, because we set that up earlier today when she was the acting governor. She will be on at 9:15. We have the county executive, Danny Levinson. We'll have various mayors, Don Guardian, emergency management folks, and most importantly, you all. If you're either observing things that are happening or you need assistance, this is why at Town Square Media, it's why the company is named Town Square Media, because we're all a part of the Town Square. We're going to take your calls. If you need help, we will try to get the people, and they'll be listening to our coverage. I promise you, they will hear your comments. So that's why we're doing it. That's why we're going to dig out, and Chris and I are going to get in here and sign on live at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So speaking of terrorism, Congressman, what's your latest assessment? It's a multiple question here, multiple part question. We'll do it one piece at a time. How are we doing, in your estimation, fighting ISIS?
Harry, this is a miserable failure.
It's terrible to hear.
I can't believe that after everything that's taken place and the rhetoric, which in some ways was hopeful from the President and the Secretary of Defense, is proven to be so hollow. On the drive back from Washington, listening to what the Secretary of Defense was saying about what we needed to do, I just almost drove off the road. My hair almost caught fire. This is a disgrace. And this is why our allies are so upset with us. This is why countries that would normally be following us are just beside themselves. And I want to tell you that right before I left for my African trip, the King of Jordan visited Washington. And as he typically does, he came down to visit with the Intelligence Committee in our secured space, in our skiff. And I could not believe, after all that's been said by the administration, that the King of Jordan was what they're not doing borders on almost being criminal.
How about the disrespect shown to him?
The disrespect shown to him, there isn't anybody who is a stronger ally in the fight on terrorism. There isn't anybody who is more willing to do what's necessary. He is not asking for American uniforms.
He went up there and flew when they got hit.
He is not asking for American uniforms. He knows what has to be done. He has them on his doorstep. He borders with Syria. He is willing to do what has to be done. And I can't believe the cold shoulder and I just wish I could say more, but this is just incredible how the administration is turning a deaf ear, and what this leader is being forced to do and what he can't do because of the United States of America and this failed, flawed, misguided, wrong directed policy from the president and the National Security Council that just has they're just so wrong. So this whole thing is a ruse, and I don't know what it's going to take for the president to get himself on track.
Congressman, while you were gone, the president has signed another executive order, and it's regarding visas, and he has this loophole in there that people from Iran are going to be able to fly into the United States. All they have to do is say, we're on a humanitarian mission or we're on some medical mission. I mean, it is a gaping, purposeful loophole. What the hell is going on?
Well, again, like his policy to deal with the terrorist threat in terms of rules of engagement, this visa loophole, which we've talked about after San Bernardino, I don't know what it will take to get them on board to secure the United States of America.
Yeah, these H-1 visas are an absolute disgrace where they're not even looking at people. This Tashfeen Malik, she telegraphed what she wanted to come here and do, and we could have stopped her.
Yeah, what question did we ask her?
Yeah. We asked her nothing. And we should have asked her, and we should have just checked her social media, and we would have saw how much she hated America. The vacuum that's created by the president is a gaping one. So then it's just human nature. Others will fill vacuums. So Iran and Russia. By the way, it is a proxy war in the Middle East, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we agree on that, and I think all objective, honest brokers do. Tell us about the role of Iran and Russia.
Well, what the president has allowed to happen is he has allowed the Iranians to take over a number of countries, Iraq being one of them, Yemen being another one, Lebanon being another one. I mean, he has just given the Iranians carte blanche, and he can't explain the whys or the wherefores, and Kerry is begrudgingly admitting that the monies that are being released are going to go to help terrorists.
What did you think? And we've been saying that on your show and on my show for forever now. What did you think of the president's latest? I mean, he violated the rule of not negotiating for hostages and paying ransom for hostages. I don't know how anybody can come to any other conclusion that we gave up 11 criminals. They called it a trade for hostages. It wasn't a trade for hostages. We got our hostages back, and they got criminals back. This was incredible.
Well,
and they got billions of dollars.
I hope that I'm wrong, but I think what this is going to encourage, not just with Iranians, but I think we've just seen it in North Korea, that this will mean taking of Americans and demanding ransom.
Did you see in Iraq we had 3 people snatched right after this? I think it was that.
And that's what we are setting up. That's what the Bergdahl situation set up, and that's what we are setting up with this. And the president's getting some very bad advice, and he's setting up some horrible situations for the future.
Ed in Egg Harbor brought up Atlantic City, but he didn't bring this up, so I'm going to bring something up closer to home. Congressman LoBiondo, you've had a very strong partnership with Mayor Guardian. It is noted. We know what you did with the SAFER grant that was ready to crash and burn, and you were instrumental in getting them the extension and getting them to the finish line, or we would have lost even more very valuable public servants. It would have been a disgrace. And you've done a lot in terms of infrastructure funding and things like that and other projects, job retraining and these things. Anything more that you can do at the federal level?
Well, we continue to look. I say we. Senator Booker has been a strong ally here, and we continue to look at what opportunities present themselves with incentives that could be possible from the efforts with Dennis Levinson and Atlantic County to bring in additional economic opportunities. And that is just unfolding. What Denny Levinson has been doing in Frank Formica and Atlantic County, how they're partnering with Don Guardian and what they're attempting to bring in, we think, depending on what the particulars of those efforts will be, there could be more federal opportunity. And I know that I've talked to Senator Booker personally, and we are ready when we see those opportunities to make the press for the federal help.
It's big. Obviously, they need it. They need it bad for the first time. I mean, they've given $21 billion over the past 35 years, but Atlantic City is in a world of hurt. And, of course, you know that. Let's shift gears. You took all the tough questions. You took all callers, all comers. Let's talk politics, which we rarely do on your program. Iowa caucuses, very unique form of voting, very committed form of voting. It's not like leaving your home, hey, I'll go vote, and you come right back, and you're almost back before the commercial break ended on the show you were already watching. This is hours and hours and hours that you have to commit if you're going to be a caucus goer. Very, very interesting. Then New Hampshire right after that. So really in 9 days, the voting for the next president of the United States will begin. I'm going to put you on the spot. What are your predictions of who will win, and how will Governor Christie do in the first two contests?
Well, I would, 6 months ago, I would have been wrong on everything. So
everybody would have been.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been alone. Donald Trump is proven to be very smart, very adaptive, and you much more astute and adept at this than I, but we are both junkies of this. We eat it, we sleep it, we get it intravenously. Every little ripple is a tidal wave. And we've watched as Donald Trump has taken opportunities and turned them into big wins, and he continues to do that. And what I'm seeing with Donald Trump now, he is saying things, positioning himself versus Ted Cruz as the deal maker, and saying something that I was wondering how he was going to do this, saying, well, this is Trump saying, well, I can't be president and do everything by executive order, which means I have to deal with Congress, which means I have to be able to make deals, which means I've got to work with people. And Cruz is the exact opposite of that.
That was very effective.
It was very effective. And Cruz has actually been saying from 2 years ago when he told everybody, shut the government down, and I promise you we'll get the president to do what we want, and I promise you I'll get the Senate to go along. And he can't get anybody to go along with anything he's saying. And he's not shown any ability to lay out a map forward. So I don't know. I don't know whether Cruz wins Iowa or doesn't win Iowa.
Before you left for Africa, I would have said Cruz, narrow win in the caucuses, and for a lot of reasons. The things I covered briefly about how you have to really organize, and this is sort of Donald's first rodeo, and having the people on the ground and having those committed people. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, Trump's drawing 35,000, 40,000 people. They'll wait 12 hours in 20-degree weather to get into a theater and maybe get in, not even know if they're going to get in. Sure, they'll go caucus for him. And he really has come on for the reasons you said. I think Trump now, and he is the leader in the latest polls as of today, I think he's going to win Iowa now, and he's really going to win strong in New Hampshire.
He's going to win strong in New Hampshire. And from where I'm looking at this, even if he does not win Iowa, I'm not so sure it matters all that much.
I agree.
Because I think he's going to be grabbing gears when he gets into New Hampshire and then into South Carolina and beyond.
The Republican winner of Iowa almost never wins.
Yeah.
Reagan didn't win the Iowa.
Yeah.
Bush won. Did.
Huckabee, Santorum, the rest of them.
I mean, so it really. Yeah. So if he wins it, it will show the breadth of his support, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, if he does win it, and especially if he wins it with a little bit of a comfortable margin. I mean, I think, everybody else pack your suitcases.
Yeah, he may be off to the races. Let's not end your program without a word about our good friend Governor Christie. What are your thoughts about his prospects? Today, I have to admit, was a little bit of a rough day. He took the position, I'm staying in New Hampshire, and I guess he either got beat up all day long or the weather has deteriorated further, and he decided he's coming back. And, of course, he couldn't afford to leave New Hampshire, but he couldn't afford not to. So you really get into those tight spots, I think.
Well, he is in a tough spot. I don't see how he does much in Iowa, and I guess even probably he admits that. I think clearly all his focus has been New Hampshire.
And he did make a move.
He did make a move, and he was making progress, but
it's come back.
It seems to me, unless something happened in the last week, he's sort of been sliding backwards a little bit. And unless he really places well in New Hampshire, I don't see where he goes from here.
Final minute, let me throw a you betcha out there in honor of Sarah Palin. What do you think of her endorsing Donald Trump? 30 seconds.
Well, she's got a huge following. And I don't think you can underestimate that. And when you look at this this latest group that came after Donald Trump, that's checkmate on them with Sarah Palin.
You have been listening to United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo on no sleep. Literally just arrived back home hours ago. Thank you for not missing the program.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
See you next week,
right.
Next month.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. And Mark Levin is next. You've been listening to Ask the Congressman with our distinguished congressman from the 2nd District, United States Congressman Frank LoBiondo. This program is sponsored by Curexa, formerly Jersey Shore Pharmacy. Mark Taylor, just a prince of a guy. You'll love it there. They do compounding. They just do amazing work. They do unbelievable stuff. Tell them you heard me mention them. And we'll be back with Chris Coleman for elaborate coverage featuring Lieutenant Governor Guadagno and much more tomorrow at 9.